Thank Colleen for the offertory. Good morning. I'm Reverend Michelle Scott-Huffman. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the minister here at First Unitarian Universalist Church of Springfield, Missouri. This weekend, we celebrate our nation's 139th Labor Day. I'm particularly fond of Labor Day because I have structured my life in such a way that I don't often get days off, and certainly not 2 days off on the weekend. And a Monday holiday always offers another shot at a day off that I might have had if I had had my stuff together and finished sermons and other church preparations earlier in the week. But so it goes. But this weekend, I get another shot. With Sunday in the rearview mirror and no meetings or other responsibilities until Tuesday, I'm going to get a day off. Now, I don't know how time works in your head, but the way it works in my head is that I have this entire 24-hour period with no responsibilities, and 24 hours is a long time. So I'm going to mow and weed eat and build phase 2 of my chicken coop and add trim and roofing and paint to said chicken coop. I'm going to clean the garage and grill some food and read a book and play with my dog and hang out with my wife and kids, except that time doesn't actually work that way. So in all likelihood, I'll finish a couple of those things and start and then abandon some of the others when reality sets in. In spite of the fact that I won't accomplish anywhere near all of the things I'd like, I'm still appreciative of the opportunity afforded by the holiday. I've also always appreciated the Labor Day holiday because it feels like a threshold, a time to mentally and maybe spiritually shift our focus. For most of my life, I've preferred an academic calendar to any other. And it's an exciting time to enter into a new phase of learning, whether it's kindergarten, senior year of high school, first year of college, or as AJ said last week in our blessing, year 39. It's possible that I haven't completed my doctoral program yet because I don't know how to exist in the world as anything other than a student. That's a whole other story though. Labor Day feels like the beginning of the next thing. Maybe not even something completely new, but a new phase at least. And as great as all of that is, there are far more important reasons to be thankful for this holiday weekend. In fact, if we are thankful for any weekend ever, we can thank the labor movement and those who put lives and livelihoods on the line to strike for shorter work weeks to allow for some leisure and family time. Just 80 years ago, those of us who are of working age, which was a much wider range, would probably be working 7 days a week and at least 60 hours a week. Children as young as 7 were a part of the workforce 100 years ago, and many people had little hope for retirement years. Imagine sending your 8-year-old off to work and having them come home 12 hours later. Although in many industries and geographies there are relatively few living wage jobs, the bargaining power of labor unions is largely responsible for gains that have been made in the past with regard to fair wages and wage equity. Employer-based health care, not ideal, but necessary in the absence of universal health care. Sick days, paid vacation, workplace safety, family medical leave. None of these are gifts of benevolent employers. Rather, they are the result of long, hard fights by people who believe that when we stand in solidarity together, we have power. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have marched, protested, and participated in strikes in order to create fairer, more equitable labor laws and workplaces, and still do today. And so this weekend, while I try to cram more than I possibly can into one 24-hour period, I will do it with deep gratitude for those who sacrificed so much to pave the way for me and for others. And I'll do it with a renewed commitment to support meaningful, reasonable, well-paid, safe work, and to acknowledge the struggles of workers who still fight for that to be their reality. Thomas More wrote in the book, Care of the Soul, that sometimes we refer to work as an occupation, an interesting word that means to be taken and seized. In actuality, many of us are seized by our work. probably devoting a little or a lot too much of our energy and resources toward work, as opposed to our relationships, our family, and in general, our pursuit of health and happiness. Many in our society will literally work themselves to death. Others will experience all kinds of ill effects in their life related to lack of work-life balance. Thomas More says that sometimes our work lacks soul, and in those cases, we do damage to our own soul. For about 25 years now, there's been an effort to get religious communities talking about and hopefully caring about and acting in support of the efforts of worker justice advocates to ensure that the work we do has soul and is safe and just, and that it doesn't just chew up and spit out the workers who toil there. We call this day Labor in the Pulpits. Interfaith Worker Justice notes that Labor Day provides a unique opportunity for the religious community, the labor movement, and other worker advocates to rediscover our common bonds: social justice, equality, the dignity and respect of all people, economic justice, and fair treatment in the workplace. It calls us to recommit ourselves to work together in partnership to be a witness to actualizing these values. Some of those common bonds sound an awful lot like UU principles. The first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The second principle, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large. The goal of world community and with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Out of our 7 principles, 5 of them very easily connect to supporting the efforts of labor advocates. Labor organizer turned UU minister, Reverend Aaron McHenry, writes, "UUs love freedom, and we cannot be free at the expense of others. We cannot have any kind of beloved community, much less a beloved world community, without peace, freedom, and justice for all people. We can delude ourselves into thinking that it is so, that our communities are fair and free and just. But closing our eyes to the reality of life as experienced by others does not make them go away. As long as coal miners die young and in agony so that we can have cheap electricity, so long as farm workers and their children become desperately ill with no access to health care because of exposure to deadly chemicals that help make our food cheaper, as long as workers at our favorite big box store can be forced to work overtime without pay and skip lunch breaks so that we can consume cheap consumer goods, goods which are manufactured by people whose working conditions are even more horrible, we are complicit, whether actively or passively. As Abraham Heschel, the great Jewish thinker and scholar, observed, we live in a world where few are guilty, but all are responsible." McHenry goes on to say, we are all connected. We are all interdependent. Our 7th principle is the embodiment of the old West African proverb, we are, therefore I am. We are fundamentally interrelated. And this principle challenges us to support and nurture the whole web of life, not just our little strands. The relative health and well-being of workers in this country and abroad relates very directly to our own health and well-being, physical, social, and spiritual. And so I want to invite you on this Labor Day, before you fire up the grill, as you enjoy some of summer's last splashes in your favorite water hole, as you gather with friends and family, safely distanced and masked, of course, to spend some time thinking about the workers behind all of what we do, all of the food we consume, all of the products we buy, all the entertainment we enjoy. Someone's labor is behind that. Are they being treated fairly? Are they being paid a living wage? Are they being asked to forego milestone moments with their families for every new work crisis that comes along? Are they safe when they do their job? These questions and so many more are prompts that we can use to help us think of others and the sacrifices they're making for us, and to remind ourselves that there is still much work to do to create a world where people are safe, and fulfilled in their work. Many of us have lived with incredible privilege through this pandemic. We worked jobs that we could easily shift to home offices, or were retired from the workforce, and we were able to comfortably shelter in place. Meanwhile, many in our own community, and I don't mean Springfield, I mean our church, did not have those privileges and sustained significant income loss, or took on incredible risks to their health and well-being and that of their families to keep our consumer-driven world spinning and to keep food on their tables and a roof over their head. Some in our church community are active healthcare workers and have endured hate speech, violence, emotional and mental trauma, and more, all while continuing to show up, shift after shift, in the most exhausting, frustrating, and dangerous season of their careers. For all of these essential workers, I give thanks. And I hope you'll join me. And for all these workers, I hope for some relief to come soon. And for all of these workers, I commit to paying more attention to their struggles and to doing what I can to help in their fight for justice and safety. And I hope you'll join me there too. I'll close with this adapted blessing by Julia Singleton of the Young Clergy Women International. Spirit of life and love. While some of us are in the safety of our homes, others must risk themselves and their families to keep our communities running. We give you thanks for the doctors, the nurses, the respiratory therapists, and all working in healthcare. We give thanks for store employees, factory workers, and delivery people. We give thanks for those who feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and bury the dead. We give thanks for teachers working to raise up the next generation in physical and virtual classrooms. We give thanks for first responders, dispatchers, social workers, daycare and shelter employees, and those working in trades that require them to go into others' homes and businesses. For all those seen and unseen, we give thanks. All work in the community is essential, and we are especially grateful during this time for those who are making great sacrifices for the good of the whole. May they know that we see them and appreciate them. May they be protected. May their families not be overburdened. We hope and pray that they may have full health in mind, body, and spirit during these difficult times. And may we know what is ours to do to help uplift workers and fight for justice and safety in their workplace, not just now, but when we move forward, to make this a more just and loving and kind world for all people. Blessed be, and amen. The interlude is In Church, performed by Colleen Apple.